I'm Alex Rodriguez, and I'm here with Mr. Evan Cayetano, who will be interviewing to find out a little bit more about Belize. So, Mr. Cayetano, first things first, introduce yourself, tell us your age, where in Belize you're from, and what you currently do.
Mine is the story of Garifuna child to parents who were teachers. So I was born in Barranco Village, 1961. So I'm now 60 years old.
Okay.
Barranco Village, January 2. And maybe a few weeks after I was born, my parents had an arrangement that all of their children, despite the fact that they were teachers in other parts of the country, that we are anchored in Barranco, not that anybody else lived there at all. So I was born in Barranco, and in a few weeks after that, the family took up a post in a village called Crique Arena. And it was in that village that I got to know this youth named Evan Cayetano. But I never lost the fact, because my mother made sure that she tells us that we are never from where we actually are. We find ourselves. We are from Barranco.
Have you been back to Barranco since you moved away as a child?
I never lived there, but I built a house there now, and that's where I'm going back to retirement.
What was that like growing up in? Because from knowing Kylie, I know that the Garifuna culture is a very specific culture, even though it exists within Belize. What was it like moving up and down within Belize, but being a Garifuna boy?
My journey was to go to high school in Punta Gorda. I did not finish high school in Punta Gorda after coming out of prep school in San Antonio. Finished high school at Ecumenical, the district just north of Toledo district. I was supposed to go to sixth form, which would be the norm, the highest level of schooling available at the time. But I did not want to go to sixth form because I thought that all of my predecessors, all of my sisters, father, everybody are teachers. I would never want to be a teacher. I want to be something else. I told myself at the time I wanted to be a technician, and I did not know what exactly that meant. I just knew it meant something exotic and something different. So I went to Belize School of Agriculture.
What are the ethnic groups in Belize?
Well, you have the Mayas as another group in southern Belize in particular, and throughout Belize, the Mayas were the indigenous people of this part of the Americas, right? So they were the people who the colonialists, the colonial masters came and found, starting with the conquistadores and those people who first colonized, if you will, or took over Mexico. And we Garifuna, we are the result of slaves who got away from a slave ship in transit because St. Vincent was wrecked off the shore of St. Vincent. No, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As a matter of fact, in our language, we still have a language. We refer to St. Vincent as Yurume, and we refer to Jamaica as Weweru. Wewe in our language means wood, and when I came to Jamaica, I hear about land of wood and water. So even in our long time language, there is a description. So we're from the Caribbean. So we are a hybrid people, a mixture that is of Africans with indigenous native people of the Caribbean. And we refer to ourselves as Garifuna. And we were in a struggle with the British and fight the British. And they won, of course, and then they packed us up and shipped us from Urume. Kylie could give you those kinds of details. So that's the stock where we come from. And as a marine scientist myself and as a natural resource management specialist, my assessment of how we survived is that we were boats people. Our people know how to make boat out of logs and move across the sea, and that provided for us to get our sustenance from the sea. So we eat a lot of fish. Yeah, so we have the indigenous Mayas, we have the Garifuna I tell you about, we have the Africans, put it that way, or otherwise call them Creole. And then we have Mestizo, a mixture of Spanish and indigenous Indians as well, the Mayas.
So
you have that mix Latino as well.
So in your opinion, what is your perspective on like Caribbean unity, right? Like should countries like Belize, who are kind of on the fence, or you could be Latin America, but you could also be Caribbean, how does unity look in a situation like that? How does it work if you have countries that can go in between the two? Or is it, like you said, an opportunity for kind of merging?
Yeah, I think Belize is in a unique position to provide for leadership in both arenas, and indeed to have market among the two, because we're in CARICOM, but also in CICA, the Central American System of Central America for Cooperation. There's an just like how there's a CARICOM, there is one of those kinds of things for Central America. We have a system where the two parties are entrenched, and we don't have a system that provides for people to be able to be, for that system to be more inclusive.
I kind of wanted to touch on the recent actions of one Miss Mia Motley, and if you think Belize will ever reach the point where they completely detach itself from its colonizers in that way.
Well, I don't think necessarily Mia Motley detach itself. I think Mia Motley is doing like Trinidad, and they appoint a head of state. They could do that, but they're still within the Commonwealth. They're still not getting what they were getting. If they were getting anything from the British regarding that, I don't see anything except a symbolism in it. Indeed, they like in Trinidad, the president, if you're going to call it that person, that is a non-executive president. They function just like a governor general function here in Jamaica or in Belize.
So you don't think that would be something that would be productive for Belize, or maybe?
No, I don't see productive in Barbados or in Trinidad first in any case.
I want to know who you think has been Belize's best leader since its independence and why.
We were all focused on getting independence, and then after independence, the first election after independence, the opposition to PUP won, and they tried to put in some structural change. They caused Belize to become more service-oriented, so we brought in tourism, and they also sold Belizean citizenship. And so we brought in a lot of other people under something called an economic citizenship program. And then that became corrupted, and so you had people fleecing the Belize treasury with respect to that. And then the next election after those guys, the PUP won again. And they continued some of these neoliberal arrangements that the UDP had started, and they were not necessarily for in their original arrangement. They were more social justice kind of entity. And then 1998 election, PUP won, and they went just out in selling off national assets and selling it off in a way that may not have been helpful to the rest of the country. And so my assessment of where we are in Belize right now is a group of leaders who, like I was saying in part of my response, they don't have any philosophy. There's no philosophical difference in their approach. It's just a different.
Would you say that there is a healthy and effective relationship between the Belizean government, the indigenous people, and everyone else? Like, what's the government's primary mode of communication?
Cabinet press briefings and interviews, but there is
and people actively listen and engage with those? I
think, yeah, maybe those who are interested, but I'm not sure how much people are engaged, because there is a movement to try and have by people who would like to have more independent thinking as third party movements, but those do not get traction.
Why do you think they haven't taken hold? Is it a lack of effective leadership, or is it a lack of relaying the information so that people feel that they should get behind it?
There is still this drag from the colonial times, where there was one party that was seeking to provide for the independence of Belize, and that was their goal. And then an opposition that would have preferred for us to remain as a British colony until perhaps we were better prepared. But they were in opposition to Belize becoming independent.
Would you say that there is a healthy and effective relationship between the Belizean government, the indigenous people, and everyone else?
We call it, those of us who would like to know are asking the government what is the ulterior motive behind these things, because the fact of the matter is that on the Maya claim and those cases, when one party the party is in opposition take jobs, because most of them are attorneys in the leadership of these parties. So when one party is in opposition, that the attorneys dedicated to that party take on the case for the Mayans. And when they become the government, the one who just lost the election and are in opposition, then so there is no clarity about morals in these types of attorneys who are both attorneys on one side, and then as politicians, as leaders on another side, who should be articulating, in my mind, some kind of national vision, some kind of development path, and how we can strategies.
One last question for you, and it's a basic question. What is media like in TV? Like, when you turn on the radio in Belize, what are you hearing? Or when you turn on the TV, what are you seeing? Are you seeing like American news and TV? Are you seeing local content? Or on the radio, is it a lot of talk shows? Or
I think Belize is inundated with talk shows since the advent of the first private radio station up until, what was it, 1987 or something like that? Belize only had one radio station.
Wow.
Owned by the government.
What was it called?
Radio Belize.
Radio Belize. And then what's the private owned station called?
That first private station was COMM Radio.
And are they just talking about day-to-day life, or is it politics, or?
Yeah, everything and anything.
Okay. What about with TV? What kind of content are you seeing?
So the talk shows are on the TV, similarly as on the radio. People would call in. In terms of other content, you would get American soaps. You would get movies.
Are Are you getting any
We
other?
Belizeans, we love NBA, including myself.
That's hilarious.
So we tune into NBA.
So talk shows is really what runs Belize in terms of radio and TV. Talk shows are the most popular.
As local content, I would say yes.
As local content. Okay. Very, very, very much. If I have any more questions, I'll be sure to reach out, if that's okay.
Sure, not a problem.